My family disowned me for not handing over cash. Now they are incessantly pleading for forgiveness and a second chance. As a child, my family did not seem to have a lot of money, but we had enough to make it by. From the outside, we seemed to be very close. My parents, Kara and Stephen, made sure to instill the belief that family was very important, standing by my side through everything. My two younger siblings, Alex and Ryan, and I shared a bond that was mixed with love and a little bit of rivalry. In simple words, we all brought each other a safe feeling. I notice more and more how my family dynamic has changed since I started my first major post-graduation as a marketing executive in a well-known company. It was bliss. Having worked hard through internships and various side jobs, I made my way into the big leagues, and it paid off in an enormous way. I earned good money. I could finally afford a lot of the things I had always desired and, worst off, struggled. For some strange reason, I thought my family would share the happiness I felt for myself too. In the beginning, they were. They were pleased, celebrated my achievements while assuring me of their pride in me. However, they eventually changed. The discussions, which used to revolve around life, family, and what our ambitions were gradually more practical in nature. It started small, requests for assistance with bills or groceries. It was fine to me at first. After all, it is family helping family, right? It was easy for me to support them being in a better financial position. But these meager demands became much bigger ones. It was no longer simply covering the electric bill. It also included paying for repairs, bailing Alex out after he totaled his car, or paying for Ryan's tuition after he quit his part-time job. Money wasn't the issue. My parents would often need help in keeping things afloat at home. Without any second thoughts, I would wire the money. I did not want to see them struggle, which I believed was something I could prevent. At some point, I told myself it was short-lived. Once they managed to get back on their feet, they would stop making requests. But those did not stop. On the contrary, those grew in both volume and in severity. In case I wondered how their requirements escalated so much and slowed down, my mother would come into the picture. She would often say, "You know, we've always supported you." The sentence seemed harmless until she kept on going. Is it too much to ask for a little help in return? Leaving me guilt-ridden over how her tone had shifted and her words turned violent. There came a time when my cost stuck to their bare necessities was no longer accurate. I was now financing their way of living. It was the new clothes for Alex, the family vacation they were not able to afford, and even my parents' mortgage payments during the tighter months. The process felt never-ending. There came a certain point where I felt burdened. I was no longer putting food on the table for myself only. I was providing for 4 other adults that had completely grown dependent on me. The moment I decided to say no or tried placing limits, I was met with either disappointment or anger. Everything changed in a matter of seconds one night. It was late, and I had just completed a demanding project for my client. My phone buzzed, and I received another message from my mom. "We need $5,000 for repairs on the house," was the message. This was not a request. There was no please or any kind of explanation, just a demand. I could feel my anxiety rising the more I stared at my screen. This month alone, I had supplied them thousands. How could they possibly keep demanding more money? I decided to call her in an attempt to stay collected and not lose my cool. "Mom, I don't have that kind of money to spare right now. I've already helped a lot this month," I explained. Her answer came as immediate as my statement. "You don't have money? Really, Emily? Are you telling me you can't spare $5,000 for your family with that job of yours? After everything we have done for you?" I felt an overwhelming emotion hit me like a massive wave of guilt. I always find myself feeling the same kind of emotions when she uses this tactic on me, but for some reason, I feel like something is different this time. "Mom, this can't continue anymore from my side. I have supported you over the years. I am not your financial institution." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, but she finally responded. I could tell she was furious. "So, after all these years, you're just going to abandon us? Fine, if that's how you want it, you're no longer part of this family. And don't bother calling us again." Before I could add anything more, she hung up. Unbelievable. My heart was racing. Could it be true that my mother hung up because I chose not to bail her out again? The reality dawned on me swiftly, which was astonishing to say the least. My family views, not me, but rather my wallet. An endless vault of cash. I cannot believe how low my family goes, not caring about my struggles, or the boundaries I have set so gallantly to protect myself. For them, it's purely about my capabilities. It felt like someone kicked me in the stomach. The very people who I loved and trusted as my family had chosen to abandon me the very moment I chose to take control. The sad thing? They had selected money over me. My night was full of tossing and turning as I replayed the entire conversation in my mind. There was a part of me that wanted to call, apologize, and do whatever possible to salvage the relationship. But the other side, the side that had been drained and abused over the years, was done. I had grown tired of being taken advantage of. I was tired of feeling like I was worth something only when I had money to give. The next few weeks went by without anything out of the ordinary. No texts, no calls, and no nothing. It was like I did not exist in my family's universe. And while it did hurt, there was also a feeling of relief that was out of the ordinary. I was untethered from the manipulative requests for money, the guilt trips, and the pressure. After several years, I felt like I could actually breathe. But somewhere, I knew that this wasn't it. Sure, my family cut me off, but it was only temporary and I knew I would hear from them eventually. They always came back. If you're not subscribed to our channel, there's a chance that you've never seen it. But if you are, good for you. You can find fascinating stories anytime you wish to watch and listen to them. The quiet was overwhelming. For the first time in years, I received no calls with requests of money and no messages filled with guilt. It was not that I missed their ceaseless attention. Even when they did not contact me, it filled me with a bizarre void. As weeks passed by, I understood that they had not just blocked me from accessing the money tree, they had entirely severed ties with me. It was like I had never been here. Initially, I sought to keep myself preoccupied with work. My position at the marketing firm was laborious, and it had been my go-to for escaping the overbearing requirements of my family. But after they were out of the picture, I found myself adrift in the lack of sound in my life. Their absence felt like a black hole. I had absolutely no clue what to do with the space I had wished for, but now that I had it, I was essentially rendered helpless. For some time, I told myself that it was probably for the best. I had created some boundaries, and they had acted out just like they always do, very dramatically and without any regard to how it affected me. But there was still some part of me that felt remorseful. Perhaps I was being too cruel. Perhaps there was a way that I could have tried to help them while still putting my well-being first. The questions ate away at me, but I set them aside. I had given them enough. Weeks rolled by, and still nothing. Not a single text or call came through. I thought that maybe this time, they were serious and cut me out of their life completely. The prospect was scary, but oddly freeing. I was completely by myself for the first time in my life, away from their control and demands. But it didn't last. My youngest brother Alex sent me a message. He texted me after a month and said, "Hey Emily, can we talk?" What was a surprise to me was the fact that I hadn't spoken to him in quite some time. I felt as though I was having a panic attack when I read that message. I did not want to respond to that text message given that I was being faced with a guilt trip or some kind of manipulation. However, he was never as entitled as my parents and Ryan. Along with the other siblings, he always demanded money from me, but still, I felt like he did not carry the weight of the family's expenses on his shoulders. Maybe he was willing to redeem himself and apologize or perhaps engage in a healthy conversation. In defiance of what I thought was right, I replied when I probably should have stayed quiet. "Sure. What's up?" was my almost instant response. He replied quickly if he could meet with me over coffee. We set a time and place to meet at a small cafe in town. It was the same cafe we would go to as kids for lunch. While I waited for him, I couldn't help but ruminate over this entire ordeal and start feeling anxious. What is this about? Was he trying to pacify the situation for the family? Or is this the onset of a new wave of demands that were to be placed on me? When Alex walked in, I could tell he was uncertain. He had changed, looked more ragged, more worn down than the last time I had seen him. He took his seat across from me and nervously twiddled with his phone before finally looking me in the eye. "So, how have you been?" he said as if we haven't spoken in decades and the two of us were already out of touch. "I've been fine," I cautiously responded, making sure to break the lingering silence. "Busy with work." The silence dragged for a moment that felt like forever. I could tell he was attempting to devise a plan on how to phrase whatever it is he came to tell me. Alex finally spoke up, his voice low. "I wanted to apologize for everything that happened. Mom and Dad, they're just really overwhelmed with everything. You know how it is with the house and everything. And Ryan's dealing with his own stuff too. But I understand. That was unfair to you." I took a deep breath to calm myself. In my head, I tried to rationalize it all. But one half of me definitely wanted to believe him and move on. The other half, the one that felt hurt and used for a long time, was not ready to be so conceding. "Alex, I've been assisting for years," I started, raising my voice considerably softer than I intended. "I have helped pay for bills, repairs, and even tuition. And I didn't complain. It's only when I decided to say no that they ceased communication with me. Do you understand what that is like?" His face turned a light shade of bright red, and he began looking at the table instead. "I know. I get it. But you have to understand, they're not okay. Things have been tough, and you are the one who has been holding everything. When you decided to step back, it was very difficult for them." I shook my head. "That's the problem, Alex. They didn't handle it appropriately. They just started pushing me until I was at my last limit. I am no bank to them and definitely not the one with all the solutions." "I know," he said softly, "but they're in need of something right now, which is the reason for my presence." There it was. The underlying fact as to why he contacted me. They require more money again, don't they? I said as a tinge of bitterness started creeping into my words. Alex winced but nodded. Yeah, things have gotten worse. Ryan is out of work and the house is in need of repairs. They are not doing really well. Emily. This was infuriating, and I couldn't help myself. After everything, after they severed all ties in a complete abandonment when I said no, they had the nerve to return once more, wanting even more from me? Was what I was fearing accurate? Apparently, nothing had changed. I can't do this, Alex, I said, shaking my head. Over the years, I've sent them money, but they never seem to be satisfied. They do not seem to value it. They do not value me. Instead, I am just another person who is supposed to offer them solutions. I know, he said again, his voice filled with frustration. But they're family, Emily. They are your family. You don't simply leave. I didn't walk away. They cut me off because I refused to keep giving them money. That was a choice made by them, not me. Alex leaned back in his chair, running his hands through his hair. He looked defeated, as if he had been expecting it all along but wanted to see a better result. I'm not asking you to give them money. I'm asking you to give them another opportunity. They know you are someone valuable to them. They wish to speak with you. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Another chance? After years of being used and manipulated, after being cut off the second I said no, they were ready to talk? It was almost laughable. I am not sure that I can do that, I finally managed to say. My voice was laden with grief. I don't know if I have anything left to offer. I could not stop dwelling on what Alex said after our conversation. They were ready to talk. They had understood how much I meant for them. But was it really me, or was it about how much I was worth to them? For countless years, my family and I shared a love devoid of emotional dependency. Every meeting with my mother and father, every phone call with Ryan, and every demand coming from Alex, money was the crux of it all. And now here they are, the people that severed ties with me, begging for reconciliation as if I am a child. This was painful. This was more painful than I would ever be able to accept, even to myself. For the next few days, I found myself replaying the conversation in my head. Part of me wanted to reach out and reconcile with my family, wishing to travel back to a time where money had not affected anything. However, the other side of me, the side that was starting to find peace in their absence, was scared. This part of me knew how it would all end. Only bringing them into my life would make me go back into the cycle of my life, guilt, manipulation, and endless demands for money. But they are my family. Confronting them was not something I was prepared to do. At least, not now. What I did want was multiple answers. I wanted to comprehend how the people that were supposed to love me had turned me into a mere paycheck for them. This led me to decide that I wanted to meet Alex again. Alex was the one who could help me gain a better understanding of what was going in my family. This time, we met at our regular coffee shop again, but there would not be any trivial discussion. I would get straight to the point. Alex, I want you to be transparent with me. How long has it been like this? How come Mom and Dad depend upon me for everything? How did we reach this point? Alex appeared to be uncomfortable in his chair, averting his gaze towards his coffee. It's been compounding for a while now. You know how they have always struggled. They were really struggling ever since you started working, but after you got a job, well, I have to say, they have been more relaxed.